A long time ago there was a king who had 7 daughters. One day the king was in a joyous mood and called all his daughters to the royal court. He announced, "I have a question for each of you, and whoever gives the best answer will receive a reward of her choice." The daughters lined up eagerly waiting. The king began asking them one by one, "Whose blessings do you eat and whose blessings do you wear?" The first 6 daughters replied, "Father, we eat what you provide and we wear what you give us. It is because of you that we live in such comfort and grandeur." The king was delighted with their answers and gave them each a reward of their choice. But when it was the youngest daughter's turn, she said, "Father, I eat what God provides and wear what is destined for me. It is my fate and God's blessing." Hearing this, the king was enraged. "Ungrateful child," he shouted, "you have insulted me. You will be punished for your words." With humility, the princess responded, "As you wish, father." The king ordered his guards, "Take her to the forest and leave her there. Let us see how she survives without my care." The soldiers stripped her of her jewels and dressed her in old clothes. They left her alone in the middle of the forest with no supplies. Despite her situation, the princess trusted in God and said to herself, "Whatever food and dignity God has written in my destiny, I will surely receive it." As the sun began to set, the princess decided to gather wood to make a fire and protect herself from wild animals during the night. While collecting wood, she noticed a small hut in the distance. Outside the hut, there was a goat tied up, and from inside she could hear someone coughing. Curious and hopeful, the princess went inside the hut. There she found an old man lying on a cot, weak and thirsty, asking for water. The princess saw a clay pot in the corner, quickly poured water into a glass and helped the old man drink. She then cleaned the hut and made it tidy. The old man asked, "My child, who are you and what brings you to this lonely forest all by yourself?" The princess shared her story with him. The old man said, "Stay here, my dear. I go to the city every few days for work. I'll leave tomorrow morning, but there is enough food in the hut, and a stream nearby for water. You'll be safe here." The next morning the old man left for the city. The princess kept herself busy. She cleaned the hut, milked the goat, and divided the milk into 2 portions. One for herself and one she left outside in a bowl, thinking a wild animal might drink it. The following morning she found the bowl empty but noticed a beautiful ruby lying nearby. She also saw snake tracks near the bowl. She recalled a childhood story about rare snakes that leave jewels behind if they are pleased. From that day on, the princess left milk outside the hut every night. Each morning she found a priceless ruby beside the empty bowl. By the end of the week she had collected 7 rubies. When the old man returned on the 8th day, the princess showed him the rubies and explained everything. She gave him 3 rubies and said, "Sell these in the city and bring workers to build a palace here." Over the next few months, a magnificent palace was constructed in the middle of the forest. The old man and the princess began living there. The palace was so grand and beautiful that news of it reached the king's court. The princess establishes a wood factory in the forest. She employs poor people there, ensuring they have a steady livelihood and food on their tables. Over time, the forest transforms into a bustling town, and stories of the princess's kindness and generosity spread far and wide. Eventually, this news reaches the king. Curious and intrigued, he wonders about the identity of this remarkable princess whose praises are being sung everywhere. The king sends a message through his soldiers, expressing his desire to meet her. The princess replies through the soldiers, "The king is welcome to meet me, but only on the condition that he brings all his daughters along. The soldiers deliver the message, and one day the king arrives at the princess's palace with all his daughters. The princess meets them while wearing a veil, maintaining her modesty, and treats them to a feast of dishes in 7 different colors. For each course, she changes her attire and jewelry to match the color of the dish, mesmerizing everyone with her elegance. The grandeur of the palace and the princess's demeanor leave the king and his daughters astonished. Eventually the king says, "You remind me of my daughter. I came here with my daughters as per your request, so why are you still veiled?" After much insistence, the princess says, "Very well, I will prepare myself and return." The king's daughters start whispering amongst themselves, "She's already so well dressed and adorned with expensive jewelry, how much more prepared can she possibly be?" Just then someone appears in the distance, dressed in tattered, worn-out clothes. As the figure approaches, the king recognizes her. This is the daughter I abandoned in the forest," he thinks, stunned. The king is overwhelmed with emotions and exclaims, "I thought the wild animals would have devoured her. When I sent my soldiers to check, they reported no sign of her in the forest. How is this possible?" Overjoyed, the king says, "Bring the princess. I will take her back with me, even if I must offer my entire kingdom as a price for her freedom." Hearing this, the princess steps forward and says, "No, father, I am that princess. I told you once that I eat what God provides and wear what is destined for me. And it is God who has raised me to this position today, where I am wealthier than even you." She then shares her entire story, explaining how she reached this point in her life. Finally, she shows the necklace she wears, which still contains 4 of the 7 rubies. The other princesses listen in awe and envy, thinking to themselves, "If only we had also said that we eat what God provides and wear what is destined for us." Friends, always place your trust in God. Whatever circumstances you find yourself in, always be grateful. The Almighty will never abandon you. If you like this story, please like and share and subscribe the channel for next video. See you in next video. Stay happy.